The 2nd Lincoln Artillery organized a march from Black Creek to Old Fort Erie this past weekend. A hardy group of reenactors braved the heat while wearing pure wool and marched 16 kilometers down the parkway.
Well, this march represents the retreat of the American Army after the Battle of Lundy's Lane. The Americans fell back to Fort Erie, and the British pursued and went into the siege of Fort Erie after that. They basically bombarded the fort for weeks and weeks until they basically ran out of ammunition, and then they actually stormed the fort, which didn't end well. The Americans pulled out after that. They just left Canadian soil, or it was British soil at that time, but went back to Buffalo, and the fort was retaken after it was destroyed by the Americans. So there wasn't much left of it, but the Americans had left British soil.
Reenacting is an expensive hobby. Last summer, McMeekin traveled from his home in Owen Sound to take part in 16 events. He first got the bug after attending a reenactment with his brother.
Got a younger brother. Way back in '94, I went up to the siege of Fort Erie, and we watched the whole show, and I said, this is amazing. So I grew up in a little town called St. David's, right between Niagara Falls and Niagara-on-the-Lake. The history was always there. We always enjoyed it, so got into it with my brother, Brad, and the rest of the Glengarry Light Infantry way back in '94, I believe, and been doing it ever since.
After lunch, the group was scheduled to march to the Peace Bridge to officially open the Friendship Festival before moving on to historic Fort Erie. What will your attitude be when you see the guys that didn't have the wherewithal to walk or march 16 kilometers? Are you going to fight with a little more gusto today?
Gonna try. Gonna be pretty wore out by the time we get there. Like I said to Chris, we did this back in '98. I was 35 at the time, and yeah, it was at that point in time we marched right from Chippewa, which was quite a bit further. So this is like half of what we did back then, but it's still, you know, being 15 years older, half the march is good.
Next weekend, the focus shifts to Niagara Falls for Saturday and Sunday activities commemorating the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Chippewa. In Niagara, you're watching The Source.